Miss Beagle from 4th grade. I'm here with this week's episode of Tucked In Tuesday, joined by my dog Diamond. I'm going to read you Goodnight, Opus by Berkeley Breathed. Oh, Diamond's ready for bed, so let's get reading. Before I begin, I want to give a quick shout out to my 4th grade class. I hope you guys are watching. I also like to, bye Diamond, give a shout out to my nephew Aiden from preschool. Hello Aiden. Which book, dear Opus, may I read you tonight? Asked Grandma with love at the start of that night. Why, my favorite, I said, the one with the rhymes, the same one you've read me 209 times. And just as it is with all proper grannies, she ordered me into my pink bunny jammies. Then she sat and said hush, and her voice filled the room. Good night, she read softly. Good night to the moon. And good night to the lamp and the little toy boat. Good night to the mittens, all hanging and soaked. Good night to the floor, good night to the walls. Good night to the rug and the door and the halls. Good night, Tiny Mouse, and good night, Blue Moonshine. Good night, Grandma read the 210th time. I can't really say how this happened next. After 210 times, I departed the text. Good night, I yelled, jumping. Good night, far away. Good night to you all in my Milky Way. Sit back down, Grandma said. Get back into bed. There's no one up there. That's not what I read. When your sight surpasses what's plainly in view, pull your head from the clouds. Keep the ground to your shoes. Now let's finish the story with no Milky Way. It's improper that folks get so carried away. But she read no further. She said nothing more. Yes, Grandma had paused for a snooze and a snore. Now I take full blame for all that came next, for I continued the story, but departed the text. Good night, I yelled down to the chap neath my bed. Good night to you, big-nosed, blue-footed biped. I'm so sorry I've missed you each night but tonight. I was told not to focus on things out of sight. Yes, good night, said the beast with the toes taffy blue. I've been here for years and not noticed you. Let's finish your story and get carried away. We'll wish them good night in that far Milky Way. My friend winked to me as his voice dropped to whispers. Let's go there ourselves, wish it right to their kissers. A team's what we need. That's just what I said, so we signed up my pillow and gave him a head. But what of dear Grandma? There's no need to tell her. We hoisted and snuck her down to the fruit cellar. She'd hear nothing there as she snoozed in her slumber, comfy and snug in tons of cucumber. Our crew was complete, my Milky Way team. We boarded our Milky Way flying machine. Powered by dreams with some blue-footed help, we launched from the roof and let out a yelp. Good night to the city, good night all you people. Then we sideswept a kitty and shortened a steeple. We flew past a fairy in need of some sleep. She'd spent the whole night just collecting old teeth. They rose to her girdle and covered her feet. There were heaps upon heaps, 2,000 feet deep. Good night, we yelled down, and she waved us over. She wished to resell an old Elvis molar. We dropped into check on the Washington scene, where I talked with Abe Lincoln and told him our scheme. He said he himself had chased a few dreams. But now that he's marble, he wished for small things. And what, I then asked, would you most like to do? A swan dive, he said. So we stripped and did two. We flew past the sailors of Blue Miss Lagoon, where for 10,000 years they fished for the moon. They've seen it up there, and they just went to hook it. They dreamed that one day they might baste and cook it. Good night, I called down. We'd help, but we're late. We're off to the stars, and they yelled, bring some bait. There are our characters all the way up there. We flew through the clouds, and that's where we met all those wonderful folks aboard that big jet. We yelled them goodnight till our faces turned purple, but theirs turned to white like they swallowed a gerbil. We haven't a clue as to what caused the scare. They slipped by quite nicely with inches to spare. Then we soared higher up till the whole sky was filled with lovable friends that the Milky Way spilled. There, all around us, 6 billion udders, no cow dads around, just milky cow mutters. Good night, I cried out, good night, one and all. Then they served us some ice cream for a Milky Way ball. 'Twas time to go home, and they wept and said no. Then they kissed us good night, all 6 billion or so. So here is the freshest of up to now tips. If you're due a cow smooch, avoid those cow lips. I found my way home and collapsed on the floor, not long before Grandma showed up at my door. I told her all of what had happened that night, that I stepped out for once and followed my sight, and that sometimes it's good that we look for a way to depart from the text and get carried away. For years I've thought back to how Grandma had listened to all the great things I said she'd been missing. How that night she had paused at the foot of my bed and smiled at those Milky Way cows overhead. I sure like to think that one night or the next, she'll get carried away and depart from the text.
Well, that's it.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning.